He looked me dead in the eyes and said it like it was nothing. "There's no place for you here." I smiled, nodded, and walked away without a word. What he didn't know, by the next morning, he'd lose the house because half of it belonged to me. It all started the day I handed my son, Liam, the $200,000 life insurance check from my late husband. "This is for your future," I told him. Little did I know, the man who was supposed to love me was already planning to push me out. His new wife, Madison, played the perfect host, but behind the scenes, things were changing fast. I was living in their big, cold, modern house, a guest room with no closet, a bed, and a tiny bathroom. The silence was louder than words. Passive-aggressive comments, locked kitchen cabinets, and cold shoulders became the new normal. When I overheard them plotting to make me uncomfortable enough to leave, I knew it was time for my own plan, because I wasn't going anywhere. Not without a fight. He looked me right in the eyes and said it like I was some unwanted guest. "There's no place for you here." I just smiled, nodded, and walked away without a word. What he didn't know was that by the next morning, he'd lose the house, because half of it belonged to me. It all started the day I handed my son, Liam, the $200,000 life insurance check from my late husband, Mark. "This is for your future," I told him with a smile. I thought I was doing the right thing, helping my son and his new wife Madison build a life. They'd just gotten married, looking for a nice house in a quiet suburb of Chicago. The bank wouldn't give them the full mortgage, so I stepped in to help with the down payment. Madison hugged me like I was part of the family, promising, "You'll always have a place here." Liam kissed my cheek and said, "Mom, you'll never have to lift a finger again." But promises are easy to make when you don't mean them. The house was beautiful, big, modern, and cold. White walls, gray floors, an open kitchen that looked more like a showroom than a place to cook. My room was the guest bedroom downstairs. No closet, a simple bed, and a tiny bathroom without a shower. I didn't complain. Honestly, I was just happy to hear life in the house again, after years of silence. The first few days were okay. Liam made coffee in the morning. Madison showed me how to use the fancy thermostat, even helped with the Wi-Fi. But the small kindnesses faded fast. One night, I heard Madison on the phone, saying, "She's nice, but we need our own space. This can't go on." At first, I thought maybe it was just stress. But then, little things started changing. They locked the top fridge with a padlock. Madison said it was for her special diet. The Wi-Fi router got moved to an office I wasn't allowed in. I went 3 days without Netflix. I kept quiet, kept smiling, folding towels, cleaning the kitchen. I gave them space. But then came the whispers, the passive-aggressive comments. Madison, laughing with friends, saying, "She lives here with 2 kids and a grandma." Liam grumbled when I asked if I could put a shelf in the laundry room. One morning, on my way to make tea, I overheard a conversation that froze me in place. Liam's voice, "She won't leave if we're nice." Madison's, "Make her uncomfortable, she'll go on her own." I stared at the wallpaper I'd picked out just days before. My son, my only son, was plotting to push me out. That night, I cooked Liam's favorite, chicken Alfredo. Nobody came down. Madison said she'd already eaten. Liam muttered something about work and stayed upstairs. I ate alone, slowly, thinking about everything I'd done for them, the love, the sacrifices, the hopes. And I made a decision. I wasn't going anywhere. After that night, when I sat there, eating chicken Alfredo alone, something inside me shifted. I realized that no one was going to save me but myself. Liam and Madison thought they could push me out quietly, but I had other plans. First, I needed information. I couldn't just confront them without proof. That would only make me look desperate. So I started watching, listening. Every conversation I could overhear, every little detail, but Madison was careful, but not careful enough. I noticed the way she hid emails on her laptop, the way Liam got nervous when I was around. I even found out that the house's title was in both my name and Liam's. That gave me some leverage. I reached out quietly to a lawyer friend. She told me my rights, and that I had every reason to fight for my half of the house. But it wasn't just about the house. It was about respect. About not letting my own blood erase me. Every day, I documented everything. Passive-aggressive notes, locked doors, changes they made without telling me. I kept a journal. A record that I knew would come in handy. I also started reconnecting with old friends, people I hadn't seen in years but who still cared. I needed allies, people who could back me up if things went south. Then came the subtle moves. I began fixing things around the house quietly, little repairs, leaving notes about maintenance issues. I made sure the neighbors knew I was still there, still part of this family. One evening, I found Madison on the phone, whispering about getting me out before the house value dropped. That was my opening. I compiled everything I had into a folder. Photos of locked kitchen cabinets, audio recordings of their plans, copies of emails I'd found. It was time to make my move, but I wasn't ready yet. I wanted to wait for the perfect moment, when they least expected it, because sometimes the best revenge is patience. The days after I started gathering proof felt like I was living two lives. On the surface, I was the quiet, patient mother-in-laundry, smiling politely, pretending everything was fine. But beneath that calm exterior, a storm was building. Every locked door, every cold glance, every whispered conversation was another brick in the wall I was determined to tear down. I wasn't just going to leave quietly like they hoped. One afternoon, I sat down with the folder I'd put together, my hands shaking slightly as I went through every piece of evidence. Photos of locked cupboards, screenshots of suspicious emails, recordings of whispered plans. It wasn't just enough to prove my rights. It was enough to expose the truth to the bank, the neighbors, even the town. That night, I contacted my lawyer again, explaining everything. She assured me I was in a strong position. Legally, half the house was mine, and any attempt to force me out without compensation would be challenged. Meanwhile, Liam and Madison's smiles started slipping. The Cold War was turning hot. One morning, I noticed the driveway blocked by a moving truck. They were trying to sell my old car, something I hadn't even used in months. It was a petty move, but it stung. They thought I was just an obstacle, a fading shadow in their new life. But I wasn't going anywhere. I began reaching out to the neighbors, subtly letting them know what was happening. Some had already noticed the tension, but I made sure they understood I wasn't the problem. I even found out through a neighbor that Madison was trying to get the house's value lowered by claiming neglect on my part. That was the last straw. Documented every repair I'd made, the leaking faucet fixed, the broken window replaced, the squeaky door oiled. If they thought I was careless, I'd prove them wrong. One evening, Liam confronted me, his voice low and angry. "You need to go, Mom. This isn't your home anymore." I looked him in the eyes, calm but firm. "It is as much mine as it is yours, and I'm not leaving without what's rightfully mine." He stormed off, but I felt a strange sense of victory. I was finally standing my ground. The tension in the house was thick enough to cut with a knife. Every morning I woke up wondering what new obstacle Liam and Madison would throw in my path. They grew bolder. Subtle passive-aggressiveness shifted into outright hostility. I found my things moved, phone messages ignored, and once, my car was blocked in the driveway so I couldn't leave. But through it all, I held on to one thing: my dignity. I refused to be pushed aside like some inconvenient memory. The house may have been their battlefield, but it was also my home, legally and emotionally. With my lawyer's help, we filed a formal claim with the bank and the local courts. The house's ownership was frozen. No selling, no refinancing, no sneaky moves. This bought me the time I needed. I started documenting everything obsessively. Every threat, every lie, every time they tried to gaslight me or make me doubt myself. I recorded conversations, saved texts, took pictures of the damages and changes they made without my knowledge. It felt like a war, but I was ready. One afternoon, I sat in the lawyer's office, going through the paperwork. She looked at me and said, "Evelyn, you're stronger than most people I've seen in situations like this. You have every right to fight, and you're doing it right." That gave me strength. Then came the mediation meeting, a cold room with a long table where I sat facing Liam and Madison. The smiles they wore were fake, strained, like masks barely holding back contempt. I laid everything out carefully, piece by piece: the locked cabinets, the attempts to cut me off from the house's internet and utilities, the efforts to sell my belongings, even the whispered plans to make me leave by any means necessary. I spoke from the heart, too, about betrayal, broken promises, and how family should mean more than property lines and bank accounts. The mediator nodded thoughtfully, asking tough questions. Liam shifted uncomfortably. Madison avoided eye contact. After hours of negotiations, they offered a settlement. They would buy my share of the house at a fair market value. It wasn't the victory I dreamed of, but it was closure I accepted. Walking out of that room with the settlement check in my hand was bittersweet. I'd lost a home, but I'd gained something much more important: respect and my peace of mind. The house that once echoed with tension and silence was now behind me. I used the money to move into a small but cozy apartment, a fresh start. I painted the walls my favorite colors, hung pictures of happier times, and finally felt free. Looking back, I realized the greatest revenge wasn't exposing Liam and Madison, or forcing them to pay me. It was reclaiming my life on my own terms. I rebuilt my confidence, reconnected with old friends, and started volunteering at a local community center. I found joy in helping others rebuild after their own struggles. Sometimes, revenge is loud and furious, a blaze that burns everything down. But sometimes, it's quiet, steady, and patient. It's the strength to say, "I will not be erased." That was my revenge, and it was sweeter than I ever imagined. All right. So that's my story. A story about betrayal, about being pushed out by the people I loved most, my own son, and his new wife. I won't lie, it was one of the hardest chapters of my life. But through all the pain and heartbreak, I found strength I didn't know I had. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's this. No matter how dark things get, no matter how alone you feel, you can fight back. You don't have to let anyone erase you or make you feel invisible. Sometimes, the quietest, strongest revenge is just standing your ground and refusing to be broken. If this story touched you, if you've ever faced betrayal or had to fight for your place in the world, please hit that like button. It means more than you know and helps me bring more stories like this your way. Don't forget to subscribe and tap that notification bell so you never miss a new video. I've got plenty more real-life stories coming up, stories of resilience, heartbreak, and yes, revenge. And hey, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you loved? How did you deal with it? Drop your thoughts or your own stories in the comments. I read every single one, and I'm here to listen. Thanks for spending time with me today. It means a lot. Remember, you're stronger than you think, and sometimes the best revenge is just living well. Until next time, take care of yourself.